Welcome to All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah. This is the Bar and Beyond series, a platform where we host insightful conversations that push growth, drive ambition, and shape perspectives of young lawyers. Hi, lovely listeners and viewers. Welcome to yet another episode of the All the Way Up podcast by Jeffrey Mensah. It's still the Bar and Beyond series. And today I have yet another wonderful guest, wonderful person I'm about to have a conversation with. She's a senior associate at the law firm Bentsi-Enchill, Letsa, and Ankomah. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Sophia, Sena, Berdie. Sophia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
And first and foremost, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with me. I tell every guest that I have a conversation with this, and it comes from the depth of my heart, because I've suffered some declines before. Right. And so when someone does agree to have the conversation, it just increases the appreciation for that person. And so, yeah, thanks for being on the show. Yeah. And one of my lecturers from the university, the law faculty, would say, depending on where you schooled, it's either Sophia or Sophia. And so in your case, which is it? What's the correct pronunciation?
Either is fine.
I
think I say Sophia myself.
Sophia, okay.
Yeah.
But for purposes of this conversation, it will be Sena all through.
Yes, that's
all right.
fine.
All right. So Sena, I was skimming through your bio on LinkedIn, and very imposing. Financial law, capital markets, derivatives, and of course, insolvency practitioner. It's pleasing as well as satisfying to see a bio like that. And I just hope that in our conversation, we'll get through from the genesis through the entire journey to this point. Yeah. And so where did it start from? First and foremost, where did you attend junior high school, senior high school, primary school first and foremost? And where did you end up? Ghana School of Law, of course, I know was in the journey at some point in time. But prior to that, can you walk us through your educational journey?
Okay, so I did GSS at Christian Home.
Okay.
In Ankomah.
Right.
Then I went on to St. Rose's in Akotia.
Oh, wow.
I did my secondary education. Then to University of Ghana, where I did a bachelor's in psychology.
Psychology, okay. Then
from there, I opted to do the LLB at University of Ghana as well.
Right.
Then from there to the Ghana School of Law.
Right. So St. Rose's, were you a saffron, or I know you guys have flowers?
I was a blue check. So
a blue check.
Think that's before
they brought the whole flower thing.
V names.
Right. Okay.
Then during my time, it was really just the color of your check.
Okay.
So blue check, yellow check, purple check, whatever.
Right.
I mean, now they say we are diamonds, but then we just used to say blue check.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And so, you made it to the Faculty of Law, University of Ghana, and then Ghana School of Law. Yeah. And so that makes you how many years at the bar now?
Well, I was called into 2014.
2014, okay.
So that we are entering our 10th year.
10th year. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. And so the journey to the bar, all right. Every lawyer has his law school story.
Right.
All right. For some people, it's pleasant. For some people, it's a mixture. Did you enjoy or endure law school?
I think for everybody, it was a bit of both. I'm sure it was the same for you as well. There were times that, you were so happy to be in law school. Social activity.
Yeah.
Even the mere fact that you are, quote unquote, among the few privileged to study law. And everything. And just the companionship of your classmates and everything. Yeah. But then you can't also discount the times that it was very hard.
Super
very trying.
Super hard.
Test your resolve.
Exactly.
Whether you actually want to do the law. So
exactly.
It was a bit of both. But then it was all in all, it was an interesting experience.
Interesting experience.
Yes.
What would you say was the inspiration behind your choice to even opt for the law program? Because, you mentioned that you had a background in psychology, and it's only after that you entered into the University of Ghana Faculty of Law. And so what really was the inspiration?
Well, I didn't originally, beyond the, every kid at every point in time saying I want to do law or something like that, I wasn't really committed to doing the law. I did my national service with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Okay.
So when I finished, it seemed that the natural consequence was to do a master's in international relations.
Yeah.
So an uncle of mine, when service was coming to an end, asked me, so what do you want to do? I said, I want to do a master's in international relations. And fortunately, he had the privilege of, he was a lawyer, and he had a master's in international relations.
Yeah.
So he said, look, I have studied international relations and I have studied law.
Yeah.
And to be very honest with you, it would serve you better if you did law.
Wow.
You can always come back and do an MA in
international relations
at any point in time.
Right.
Later. So I would urge you to study law. So then I bought the forms and then I applied and I got in. So that's how it started. Then it was more or less like just sort of, it was like a natural order. It wasn't that I was so passionate about the law. It just seemed like the next thing to do after national service.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that I was necessarily inspired
by any
at that time. I mean, I went through the LLB. It was hard, but it was fun. Fortunately, I mean, we sailed through. We got into Makola. But it was at Makola that I think my real inspiration came about.
Okay.
So I remember my now boss, who was then a company law lecturer, came to the class, and I was so intrigued by, should I say, my perception of him, how serious he was, how he understood what he was. You could just tell from the way he handled the subject that this was somebody who understood,
had a command over what he was.
Yes, and he was very serious, and his posturing and everything, it sort of gave me the impression that this is what a lawyer should be, or this is what, if I go on to become a lawyer, I would want somebody sitting back to look at and have that same sort of reaction. So then I'm like, oh, this law thing, like, it's serious. Like,
you should probably give it a more serious shot.
It's not that bad. Like, there's actually like a future out there. Like, I could be this kind of lawyer.
Yeah.
And so then I started, like, should I say, I was inspired. It was at that point that I was like, no, I really want to do this law thing, and this is the kind of lawyer I would like. I'd
like to be.
Yes. So I think for me, the real inspiration, was in my company law class. At Makola. Before then, it was really just going through the motions.
Kudos to your now boss and former lecturer as well. But it's interesting that you mentioned, because I mean, my story is quite similar. The law choice to read law appeared at the time to be the next most reasonable step. All right, because I came out straight out of senior high school to the law faculty, did general arts, the liberal arts subject. And so it was only until I started my journey that I started to identify reasons why I didn't make a wrong choice, and here we are now. So I appreciate a lot what you mean by that. When you made the choice, all right, now you're inspired. What were some of the expectations that you had of the profession at the time?
Well, I think at the time, really, my expectation was really my boss.
Right.
It was sort of like a standard for me that, they are actually, because like you said, everybody that we had encountered up until that point was litigation related.
Exactly.
And somehow I always sort of knew that litigation wasn't the thing for me. I don't know. I just sort of knew that. I mean, I never really, every time I imagined myself as a lawyer, I didn't imagine myself standing in front of a judge and arguing. So even though I wasn't really familiar with corporate practice or transactional law at the time, I always just knew that I'll probably go in-house, or I just knew that litigation was not
courts from there. No, it's not at all.
That I was sure of. And so that was the closest I came to somebody who was actually not
in litigation proper. Yeah.
So it made me curious, like, what does he do? Like, yes, I know that he teaches company law, but like, what does he do on a day-to-day basis? And I found that he worked at my firm. I started checking out my firm online. Yeah. Everybody I encountered spoke very highly of them and everything. So I remember I went with a colleague of mine. We took a trip over. We took a tour of the place. It didn't quite look like you watch Suits and all of that. It didn't quite look like the law firm you would expect.
That you see on TV.
But then everything that I had learned about them sort of indicated I was the place to be, and it was a place to learn. And so, I mean, it was just a natural consequence that I ended up I got the opportunity
Nice.
to intern and then subsequently go on to pupilage.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think you're hinting the response to the next question I was going to ask. I'll still ask the question because I want us to go into a bit more detail. But before that, still in law school, I want to conclude that phase with a question to you. What your advice would be to any law students, be you at the faculty level, be you at the Makola stage, bearing in mind all the challenges you might have encountered, how you surmounted them. What would be your advice? 3-point advice, 2-point advice, whatever it is.
Well, it's really just immerse yourself in the stage in which you are. I mean, when you're in school, it's really about studying and making the grades.
Yeah.
That's what will get you to pass the bar.
Yeah.
So if you are a student, then your primary focus should be studying and passing the bar. When you cross over into practice, I mean, it's a different ball game altogether. And obviously your goals will change at that point. But as a student, just focus on your studies, give it your best shot, and just make sure that you cross over onto the other side.
Right. That's great. So, Sena, 2014, you're called to the bar. What informed your choice of place to do your pupilage? You've already mentioned that, of course, your lecturer inspired you.
Yes.
And so you're already sniffing around where he was operating. Yes. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, so like I already mentioned, I was inspired by him. I went on to research about the firm.
Yeah.
And then fortunately, I got the opportunity to intern with the firm. Fortunately, again, right after internship, we were taking on to do our pupilage there.
Right.
So it was quite easy, if I would put it, to move from internship into pupilage.
Into pupilage, right. Yeah. Right. What were some of the honest challenges of the pupilage stage? I mean, they vary from firm to firm, from practice area to practice area. For you, what was it?
Well, it was really the gap between what we had learned in school and then practice.
Okay.
So first and foremost, you come with a certain, should I say, mindset or confidence that you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know everything. Unfortunately, your first assignment makes you see that you know absolutely nothing. Yes, it's a humbling experience. You have to be prepared to learn from everybody, including even non-lawyers, because they've been at it for a long time, and you are coming, like you are new into the practice of the law. So it was a humbling experience. You have to be humble enough to admit that you actually don't know anything, and also be ready to learn from any and everybody. So it was really the gap between what we had learned in school and what was actually required for the job.
So I'll dig a bit deeper. I've been in those shoes before, where you assume you're smart. You assume, look, I can do this. And then, like you said, humbling experience. There are times when you realize your self-esteem is it hits rock bottom. All right. How did you navigate those times?
Well, I think for me, the key thing was to always remember that I must be good enough to have made it into the firm. And so obviously I'm not that bad.
Right.
There must be something that the partners saw
in you,
thought was good enough
to
let me in in the first place. And then I think it's also, I mean, you have to be realistic with yourself. There are people who have been doing this for so many years, and you are starting anew.
Exactly.
And so it's okay not to know something that you are asked to do when you come in. So by all means, research. Speak to your seniors. Oh, I've been given this assignment. Are there any pointers? And obviously, you don't just go to your senior without like reading or researching or anything. So when you're speaking to your senior, oh, I've been asked to work on this assignment. I've looked at A, B, C, D. Is there any guidance that you can give to me? That's about being open-minded and also learning from people. There's no shame in admitting that I don't know this thing, but obviously do some basic work before you go speaking to people about like what guidance they can give to you. So yes, it's a tough
stage.
It's a tough stage. But then if you are conscious of the fact that it's a learning stage and these are your foundation stages.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a bit easier on your psyche.
Okay.
You don't take every, should I say, even negative feedback or lack of knowledge about something as a blow to your ego or your knowledge. It's an opportunity to learn.
Right. 9 years now, you've entered your 10th year. If you had to look back and advise yourself back then, what would be that one thing you'd tell Sena? Sena freshly called to the bar, Sena the pupil.
What I'll tell myself? Well, it was, I guess it would be to have had more confidence in myself, because there were so many times I second guessed myself, and so I didn't speak up.
Yeah.
Or perhaps maybe you do a write-up and you're not too sure whether this information that you have is actually useful, and so perhaps you hold back on it. Yeah. And then maybe after the review or anything, you actually see that what you actually
was relevant
and what you actually held back was relevant.
Yeah.
So it's to have more confidence in your abilities and also not to fear correction, because really holding back is because you're afraid that somebody will say, oh, this information is wrong, or you needn't have added this information. Yeah. But then you should be conscious of the fact that you are learning and correction is not wrong. Right. And so you shouldn't hold back or doubt or second guess yourself. That's
some solid advice there. Yeah. So Sena, at this point, right, you finished pupilage. Your pupilage was how long? 1 year?
6 months.
6 months, right. And so at that point, having experienced or encountered your lecturer, now you've worked under him a while, were you clear as to what you wanted your career to look like, practice area wise, specialization wise, or it was still an exploratory?
No, fortunately in my firm, pupilage, we had at my time we had 7 practice areas.
Okay.
And so you do a rotation through all the 7 practice areas before you end up in whichever team.
Okay.
Finally end up in.
Included litigation as well.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Right. You don't have a choice, so you do a rotation through all the practice.
All the 7.
areas.
Okay.
But I think it's a very good approach, because by the time you are done, yes, it's the rotation. Each rotation is quite short, but then it gives you a fair idea where your strength is, where your weaknesses are. So fortunately for me, by the time pupilage was over, I knew that I didn't want to be in certain teams. Okay. For example, I had my should I say my decision not to do litigation had been reinforced. Right. Yeah, there were times I enjoyed it, but then I don't think it was as fulfilling for me as other teams were. Okay. So I think by the time I was done with pupilage, I had narrowed down to 2 teams.
Okay, which were
energy and natural resource.
Right, right.
And then financial institutions and capital markets.
Right.
I think I considered the full experience. Okay. And then I opted for finance.
So when you say the full experience, what was all the considerations? Because, I mean, energy, natural resource,
yes,
finance and banking, they look like 2. If you had to ask me, I'll probably close my eyes and then pick one of them, right? But then what was running through your mind in making that choice?
For me, I think it was really about my lived experience through either of those teams. Yes, I enjoyed both practice groups, but it was about which of them I particularly enjoyed, which of them I was keen about, and which of them came slightly more easy to me than the other, and which of them I thought would serve me long term, right? And I opted for finance.
And so this would mean that your choice as to whether to stay or to leave the firm and post your pupilage really was informed by the thought that you could see some growth prospects at the firm. Is that the case?
Yes, definitely. So, staying on is not compulsory.
Okay.
You can finish, and people do finish pupilage and say, oh, I have other interests, or I'd rather, move to this other firm or this other area. That's fine. Yeah. If you are minded to stay, it's also not automatic. You apply to whichever team that you want to practice.
And if they want you?
And if they want you, then...
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Wow. So if they want you, then they make you an offer. They hire you. Yeah. So, essentially.
So for you, the decision was conscious. I wanted to stay.
I was very clear in my mind at the time that this is where I wanted to be.
Right.
I thought that it was a firm that would help me grow. Yeah. I thought that it was a firm that would give me dynamic experiences, because even during my pupilage, the kind of transactions we had been exposed to, the matters that we had been asked to research on, And then even the outlook of the people in the firm, I just thought that this was the place for me. So I was sure in my mind that I wanted to stay on.
Yeah.
It was really just which team
to be in.
Yes, which team.
Which of the two to be in.
Yes, which of the.
And then banking and finance won the day.
Yes.
Anyway, that's great. So again, I'm big on advice. Freshly called lawyer, probably conducting his or her pupilage now, or about to get called to the bar. What would you tell that pupil or that youngster?
Well, to be patient with yourself. Because I was fortunate enough to work in a firm that allowed me to rotate and then get a sense of different practice areas and then be able to make a choice as to which one I thought would serve me well. But then not everybody may have that opportunity. But we all don't have to go on the same path.
Yeah.
Just be patient with yourself. Somebody may determine what works for them in year 1. Somebody may determine what works for them in year 4. Just focus on your own journey and be patient with yourself. When the time is right, you would know what's in your best interest, and that decision will come easy to you.
So, Sena, finance, banking, capital markets, derivatives, these they have to do with figures. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just my perception. Maybe you can correct me now before I proceed with my question.
So, understanding the figures is definitely a plus.
Yeah.
But then the focus of the practice is the law.
Okay.
So finance is really about helping people raise capital to
Yeah.
run their business.
Yeah.
That's essentially it. So it's really about all the things that you need to do to be able to raise finance for your business, really.
Okay.
And, you can raise finance through different
means. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the premise was going to be for the question regarding how you've sailed through unfamiliar turf. All right, because looking at your background, you read psychology at the University of Ghana, faculty, then Makola. We agree that it's already litigation skewed. All right,
Definitely.
and so finance, banking, yes, regulatory, but it's like an entirely new field, more or less. How did you walk that terrain? The newness of the environment, the newness of probably the concept. Now you're studying a specific industry, the banking industry. It's not litigation. I'm not referring to cases and then case law and whatnot. All right. What was the approach for you?
Well, in terms of unfamiliar turf, even today, everything
you still encounter
everything we do is unfamiliar because even no two transactions are
the same, right?
So even if you are doing M&A, and I've been doing M&A transactions for how many years?
Yeah,
no two of them are the same. One may be in banking, another M&A transaction may be in industry, manufacturing.
Yeah.
So every day you are faced with something new,
right?
But then coming to banking and finance or finance law afresh, it was really the benefits of having experienced people to learn from.
Okay.
So people who have done it over and over again are good at it, being able to be led by those people. And then also reading and researching. So if you are asked, as a junior on the team, most of the times you will do the heavy lifting. So for example, if a transaction starts, you would do what we would call a transaction checklist, which is really a 360 of everything that's required, regulatory approvals, corporate approvals, everything that we require to work on the matter, everything that we should be conscious about. Okay. So it's actually by the time you are done with that exercise, you have a full picture of everything that's required for the transaction. But the first time you are doing that, it's so difficult. but that process, when you go through that process, the next time, you have the
You've done it before.
Done it before. So at least there are certain things that will come easy to you. And you would know that, for example, I need corporate approvals in these circumstances. I need regulatory approvals in these circumstances. Or these are the issues that we encountered the last time. So you have it at the back of your mind, should in case they arise again.
Yeah.
So it's really just in the doing
that
and
you
then
learn.
having there's no better way to learn than actually immersing yourself and
Applying,
doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And then having the guidance of seniors who have done it and learned through the process. So if you make a mistake, they correct you. Oh no, this this doesn't apply in this circumstance, or when you're doing these kinds of transactions, be mindful of this or be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Really, that's really about it. And then you must always make time to read generally about the industry that you are working in. If it's banking that you are in, read about what the banking industry is about, because the kind of advice you would give would be better if you understood the industry that you were in.
You're in, yeah.
And if you are giving advice to a bank and you didn't understand the operations of a bank or the banking industry, the advice may not be suited
exactly
to them.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's really in the doing and then learning.
So Sena, in the doing, right, immersing yourself, applying yourself fully, what would you say are some of the tangible demands that have been made on you throughout your career journey? Time, family, social life. What has it been like for you?
Well, if you want to be a good lawyer, then you have to be on top of the law. And law is changing. When we were called to the bar, the Companies Act was the 1963 Companies Act.
Exactly.
Now the Companies Act is the 2019 Companies Act.
Way more sections.
You get it? So you have to immerse yourself in learning the law. You have to be on top of the law. That's really your stock in trade. You're a lawyer. You have to understand the law so that you are able to apply it to the set of facts that you have before you.
Yeah.
So in order to do what you do, you just have to make sure that at least as a basic minimum, you're on top of the law.
Okay.
You are reading the relevant laws that apply to whatever it is you are doing, and you have to find nobody's going to tell you there's law A, law B, law C that applies. You have to determine by reading, analyzing, and determining that yes, this law applies, this law doesn't apply, and why? Because sometimes part of the whole exercise is really whether a certain law applies or it doesn't apply. So it's a lot of research, analysis.
And that's a demand on time as well.
Yes, and you have to give your time to be able to do this. So
okay. When it comes to work-life balance, I think we'll enter a bit into what I wanted us to touch on, but we'll get there. Right. We'll get there. What would you say has been your most humbling experience so far?
Well, it is about the fact that even after so many years, there's still a lot to learn. Every day you're confronted with something that makes you realize that you actually have to sit up. Yeah. You cannot get comfortable. Yeah. And there are new trends that are emerging. You are dealing with, you're encountering lawyers from other jurisdictions. You are encountering savvy clients who, they've read your law. They know it already. They just sort of want a confirmation from a lawyer, a local lawyer or a Ghanaian lawyer as to whether their interpretation of the law is right. So it's a humbling experience. You always have to read. You always have to be up to date. You always have to, you are reading your law, but you also want to be internationally relevant. Right. So you sort of just have to make sure that you're up to date on every area. Right. That's relevant to your practice.
So this includes going beyond your local borders as well, or
not going to read foreign law, but you have to understand the trends internationally. Right. Because, for example, some matters may come and it's a new trend. Yeah. But you can't tell your client that this one they are doing it abroad. Yeah. We are not doing it in Ghana. Did you get it? Exactly. So your client comes to you with a problem. The lawyer's job is to help the client solve the problem. Okay? Right. So how you solve the problem is really up to you. You have to have the tools and then the knowledge to help the client solve the problem.
So arm yourself with enough to be able to deal with whatever comes.
Arm yourself with whatever you need to be able to solve the client's problem. And that's the only way you'll be a good lawyer, that somebody came to you with a problem and you were able to solve the problem and impact the person's business.
Solid. Sena, workplace competition. All right. Is it something you've ever had to deal with? And what has been your approach to managing it, if yes?
Well, I haven't had to bother about workplace competition because fortunately I work in a firm that considers merits.
Yeah.
So if you deserve to be promoted, you are promoted. And then it's also a firm that engenders teamwork. So you don't have to, at any point in time, want to be better than
another person.
Next person. It's really about how we can collaborate and then solve the client's problem. So you don't have to worry about, this person is trying to, have one over me or anything like that. If you put in the hard work, you'll be rewarded for it. So you shouldn't be worried about competition and all sorts.
I'll ask this question. So when it's said that one needs to be a good team player to be able to excel in certain organizations, given the kind of context that you work in, it's very team supportive. All right, what would you say a good team player is?
So I think a good team player is a person who understands his or her strengths, and then understands the strength of other team members.
Right.
So, for example, if I'm working on a certain matter, I know that Jeffrey's strength is in this area, so I can go to Jeffrey and say, Jeffrey, I'm working on this matter. I think A, B, C, D. What do you think about it? Because really, that's your strength.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I think it's A, but then we discuss, and then we come to a conclusion. Let's go with A or let's go with B for whatever reason.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the goal is to solve the client's problem. It's not about who profit the solution or not.
Right.
Do you get it?
Right.
It's about, at the end of the day, the client is happy, the client's business is good, and you'll be rewarded for that. So it's not really about, I suggested it. I suggested it. No. If I need to come to you to get information or guidance from you, even if you are my junior or whatever, it really doesn't matter. It's the solution that matters.
That's important.
So I don't think that your focus should be so much on
competition
and what other people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you acknowledge people and their contribution to your work, over time, people will realize that you are not interested in competing with them.
Yeah.
And they would also collaborate with you happily.
Yeah, yeah. Great. So, Sena, you worked your way to being senior associate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We pray for the best for the years ahead. Assuming the standards for becoming a senior associate were uniform across board, right? So beyond your firm, what would you say are the things one needs to be able to put out, all right, or to deliver on in order to rise to that level?
Well, first and foremost, senior associate, like the position of senior associate is not as of right.
Okay.
And it's not also as a consequence of how long you've been in the firm.
Right.
It's really a position of trust.
Right.
So the partners feel that you are competent enough to see a matter through from start to finish with minimum supervision. Okay, that you are again competent enough to train your other associates, lead them on the same path that you have been, or even like for them to become like you or even better.
Yeah.
So, and also like attend to clients' matters competently, that if a matter comes and a partner is not around, you are capable of dealing with the matter.
Yeah.
That you are on top of the law. You can represent the firm in a very confident, confident manner. I think those are, to my mind, those are the key things that determine who makes
senior associate or not.
It's not as of right.
Right.
It's not as of how many years you spent in the firm. It is your competence and then the perception that the partners have of you. It's a position of trust. Really.
And it's a position where leadership, I guess, plays a key role.
Yes.
Your ability to be able to bring others along.
To bring others along, train others as well. With very minimum supervision.
Great. So, Sena, you started out at the firm where you work and you're still there. All right. This question has always lingered in my mind. I think it's a question that cuts across other fields as well. And I'll use a field that I'm quite passionate about, basketball. All right. My favorite player, Kobe Bryant, was drafted into the NBA. He's passed on now, God rest his soul. But he played with the Los Angeles Lakers right until he retired from the NBA, one team. And you have other players who are all equally good, but they jump from team to team. It's probably because maybe they want to explore, or what would you say are the pros and cons of starting and staying with a particular firm as opposed to, I don't want to say jump from firm to firm, but moving on and having a taste of other places and whatnot? What has been your experience?
I don't think one is better than the other.
Okay.
It's really about what you are looking for.
Okay.
Or what your plan or your goals are.
Yeah.
If staying in a certain firm satisfies all your goals at the time,
yeah,
by all means stay in that firm.
Stay in that firm.
If you think that where you are does not satisfy all your needs or doesn't align with your goals, move on to a place that has whatever it is you are looking for.
Right.
So I think at every point in time, it should really be about, am I at a place where I need to be? Does this place meet all the demands or meet all the goals that I have for myself at this point in time?
Yeah.
If it's yes, then you shouldn't really be worried about moving on.
Okay.
If it's no, then find a place that has the things that you're looking for, and by all means, move on to that place.
Right. Great. Sophia, Sena, Berdie, what would you say are the defining traits of your practice as a lawyer?
Well, I think
tough question, no?
It's a tough one, but then I think I'll put it to hard work.
Okay.
Mindset.
Right.
And then teamwork. Yes, because I can't take the credit for everything.
Right.
I mean, I've ridden on the back of several other people, and I still rely on several other people to do the work that I do every day.
Yeah.
So hard work, definitely burning the midnight lamp.
Yeah.
I mean, immersing yourself in whatever it is you are doing, reading, researching. I mean, and then in terms of mindset, having a problem-solving mindset. So every time you have like a matter, if it's finance, if it's it could be an equity investment or a debt investment, you always keep the goal at the back of your mind. If you encounter issues, or which always come up anyway, it shouldn't be solely about, oh, this is a stumbling block, because of this we won't be able to move on. It's about how can we legally surmount this problem, and make our client happy. That, and also the benefit of all the people that I have to work with. My firm.
I like that you mentioned that having a problem-solving mindset, because sometimes as lawyers, if you're not careful, you are so stuck to what the law says that's all you really can proffer. And you hit a dead end. And so your client has an issue, oh no, the law says this, and so that's it, you know. But I've come to realize that your essence really as a lawyer is to solve the problem. You know? And so if you leave it at that dead end of the law says this, and so we can't progress, and I think it casts a doubt on.
Sometimes it may mean like restructuring the transaction so that you are able to go ahead. Sometimes it may mean engaging regulators. Because sometimes there's really no law even regulating the thing that your client wants to do. And so it may mean engaging the regulator, explaining to the regulator, making the regulator understand that, oh, this is what my client wants to do. And then working with the regulator to come to sort of certain parameters within which your client can do what they want to do. Sometimes it may mean that, oh, you may have to restructure. Maybe you wanted to do A, B, C, D, but because of the legal limitations, you may only do A, C, F. So
having that mindset then is very key too.
Your essence is not to highlight roadblocks. It's really helping the client surmount whatever roadblocks may come up. And then make them be able to do.
Satisfy the client.
Exactly.
Sena's specialization, you've touched on the areas that you operate in, all right? Financial law, banking law, capital markets. What was your approach to this specialization journey? Of course, yes, you identify the right mentor or person to work under. I'll probably identify that as one of your steps. But could you shed more light on some of the other things that you did, the intentional things that you did to immerse yourself in the area that you had identified that, oh, this is what I want to be doing long term?
I mean, I think fortunately for me, we work in strict practice groups.
Okay.
And so the team I work with focuses on those matters. So every matter that I do falls within that scope of work. So I have the benefit of having practical hands-on like experience in that field because of the matters that I work on. But also you have to read. If it means, taking further education in that field, do it if you have to. If it means attending seminars or even talks and all of those things, by all means do it. That you can't have too much information. So every opportunity to develop yourself, take it and then develop yourself.
Great. So Sena, in figuring out what you wanted to do, all right, it started way back in law school. For the young lawyer who's struggling to figure out, probably doesn't have the benefit of a firm where you can rotate practice areas, have a feel of everything. What would your advice be? How or what should the considerations be in settling on something to specialize in? Because we're churning out more and more lawyers, and so the tendency of you succeeding if you stand out in a particular area is probably higher than you joining a lot of general practitioners, right? So what?
I think that be attentive to the things that you enjoy. If it doesn't even have to be in practice. For example, in school, there are certain subjects that you are good at. Maybe constitutional law, it may be company law, it may be administrative law. Be attentive to those things. Because it's an indication of the things that come easy to you. Or the things that you enjoy or the things that you are passionate about. You should also pay attention to the things that you are generally passionate about. Some people are very empathetic. Okay. It may very well be that you may thrive very well in maybe human rights related matters. But then, so there's that, and there's also your everyday, the things that you do every day. Over time, you realize that certain things come easy to you than others. It's all an indication of the things, like the area that you'd like to specialize. So I think that it's really just paying attention
to these things.
The things that you enjoy. Sometimes too, it may very well be taking a hard decision and saying, look, I'm going to specialize in this field. And then taking the steps that are required to specialize in that field, because it's not every time that you may easily identify the things that come easy to you. You may very well like chart a whole career in energy and natural resources, and maybe in year 6 you realize, no, it's not really my thing. So it's just really time and patience. And over time you would learn where you should be, and hopefully your goals and your career would align
as well. Sena, who is an insolvency practitioner? It's I think it's a terminology that I wouldn't say is new to me, but I it's quite new to myself and a number of other people. I've heard it before, but you're an insolvency practitioner. Educate us. Who's an insolvency practitioner? What's the scope of responsibilities?
An insolvency practitioner is a person that is licensed to practice in the insolvency field. There are different kinds of insolvency practitioners: bankers, accountants, lawyers. And so your particular specialization will determine what you would do within that scope. You would find that maybe an accountant, like advising on like insolvent companies, rescuing companies, so administration, insolvency,
receivership, or
all of that. But your skill set will determine what role you play within that field. So for a lawyer, really, your scope will really be advising on the law in relation to these matters. Sometimes advising other professionals, for example, the accountant, on real life like issues that come up during the, let's say, winding up of a certain company. So for a lawyer, as an insolvency practitioner, is really advising on the law in relation to these matters.
How does one become an insolvency practitioner?
Well, I'm not quite sure what the qualification is now. But for us, you had to be a member of GARIA. And then, fortunately, because it was just the beginning of the whole licensing era, we were grandfathered more or less, like we were sort of just licensed without having to go through any
rigorous.
But then I'm not quite certain
as the procedure
what
now.
The procedure is going forward. Yes. There were 2 cohorts that were licensed for the actual implementation of the provision.
And what would you say the prospects are for a field like that, and also a field like finance, banking, and what are the prospects in Ghana?
It's a big field.
Okay.
In a lot of law firms outside the country, they have a whole department that focuses on insolvency.
Okay.
Because so long as businesses exist, some businesses would struggle.
Yeah.
And they would need the services of advisors on rescue regimes for them.
Yeah.
So it's a very big field. I don't think that we are there yet in Ghana. Definitely, this whole licensing process is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of, should I say, restructure, regulate the industry. So hopefully we get there in a few years to come.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of prospects there. You definitely can set up your whole practice around advising insolvent firms, advising even investors on what their rights are in terms of their investment in firms that are, or companies that are struggling. Yeah, so there's a lot of work out there, and there's so much for others.
Right.
A lawyer to do in that field.
Great. Work-life balance. One of the things I find very, very admirable is a lawyer who, yes, is killing it in the courtroom, killing it at the office, but is still able to do the things he or she loves doing. All right. So be it music, be it whatever, a sport, and stand out in that area. What has been your experience? You're killing it as far as practice is concerned, but what concessions have you had to make, and how have you gone about trying to balance it with the things that you love doing?
Work-life balance is a struggle, but it's very important.
Yeah.
So you have to be deliberate about it. You have to make time out. Take your leave when you feel tired. Schedule time out with friends. Schedule time to do the things that you enjoy. If you like reading, find time and read, because the law is very demanding, and if you allow it to take over your whole life.
Whole life, yeah.
So you have to be deliberate. If it means scheduling a calendar invitation or blocking out time in your calendar to do the things that you love doing, and it may very well be just having your personal time. It may be doing social activities, going on a road trip, anything that you enjoy doing. Be deliberate about it and make time out for it. Otherwise, the law will take over your life.
So now, what do you love doing?
I love reading.
Okay.
And I love cooking as well.
Right.
And so when I take time out, I do a lot of that.
Any plans of probably opening a restaurant or something someday?
I don't not in the foreseeable future, but yes, those are things I think I enjoy doing them whenever I have the time. It refreshes me, makes me happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And family life. All right. Yes, it's another aspect of the whole work-life balance. I believe it's a special aspect of it, or component of it. How have you balanced that as well? Because it's clearly practice has a serious demand on time as well. And family life also has a demand on time as well. And so how do you marry the two?
Well, I think it's if you are fortunate enough to have understanding people and then support, it makes it easier. So there are times that you can't come home early. Yeah. But if you have an understanding partner, understanding family, they understand that this is what the job requires. You just cannot be back at that time. So it helps if you have understanding people in your life. You just have to explain that, today I have to stay on and work a few more hours. These people understand that this is what the job requires for you to advance in that career. Your career as well. So they don't hold it against you. They just know that you're out there trying to make the best you can of your life. And then if you also have support, and by all means, if you have support, take it, because you can't do everything. On your own. You can't do everything on your own. So domestic support, if you can pay for a service, by all means, pay.
You can afford it. Go ahead.
If you can afford the service, pay for it and take the time out, because it is stressful.
It's stressful. It's stressful. I believe this goes as notice to whoever intends to marry a lawyer. You need to be understanding.
Yes.
You need to be understanding. Exactly.
Important, because sometimes even the fact that you are not able to be available for family, it takes a toll on you mentally. Yeah. So if you know that the people on the other side are not holding it against you, then you are free to do the things that you are required to do at work.
Yeah, and they are not too hard on yourself as well.
Not too hard on yourself because they understand that if you could be available, by all means you would
have been.
It's just that at this particular time, you cannot be available.
Great. Spirituality, has it played any part in your journey?
Definitely, absolutely. I mean, different people believe in different things.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian, so I believe in the power of God.
Yeah.
And I think that if I look back on my life and how far I have come, I cannot discount the grace of God. I mean, there are so many things that I can't take credit for, and I can only credit it to grace, God's guidance.
Yeah.
So by all means, yes. If you believe in a higher being, and I mean, if that's your belief, by all means, tap into it.
Right.
By all means, tap into it. If you don't believe in it as well, whatever it is that works for you,
go ahead on that.
There are times that you are physically tired.
Yeah.
And if you believe in God, you can call on God for strength.
To be able to carry on.
Yeah, to be able to carry on.
I like
or
that.
Guidance on how to deal with a certain matter. And if it's your belief, it works for you.
True. I recall some time back, this is when I used to do some work for the legal aid, pupilage, and some years after that. There are times when I'll be going to move a motion and that motion becomes my prayer topic because
of course.
I know it's so crucial if God doesn't come through for me.
Yeah, there are so many times that maybe before a call, or even before a meeting, I take a moment in my car. I'm like, God, I'm not too sure what I'm going to say or how receptive the people will be. Go ahead of me, whatever I need to do, do it. That's my belief.
And those are powerful prayers.
You may very well think that is nonsense, but I'm not.
It's working for you.
Saying that you should believe in the same thing. I believe in it, and it works for me.
Exactly.
So long as it works for me, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. That's amazing. Sena, I have two more questions, and then I believe we'll round off with our conversation. You've mentioned financial law, banking, insolvency, derivatives, capital markets. That's your field. What other fields do you think youngsters should look out for?
Well, there's a lot happening in the tech space now. Artificial intelligence and all of that. There's a lot of focus on ESG as well. Yeah. So there's that as well. There's for people interested in finance, there's a whole developing area of climate finance and all of that. And then even within the traditional fields, there are new trends every day. So pay attention to these things, read about them. It's always on the news and all of that. Show interest in them, at least have a fair idea what these things are about, so that you are not found wanting. If a conversation comes up about these things, you can share a word or two, or chip into the conversation when these things come up.
I think that's very relevant. I asked this question, the next question I'm about to ask to one of my guests, Onesimus. He gave a very interesting response on branding as a lawyer. All right. Yes, we have very strict rules regarding marketing yourself, advertising yourself, and all of that. But again, in order to succeed in your practice, you need to put yourself out there. Yes. What would you say are some of those safe avenues for branding yourself as a lawyer? What's the approach?
At the end of the day, law is still a business.
Exactly.
If you are not afloat, then your firm will go under. So marketing is very important. It may come very easy to certain people. It may be a struggle for others, myself included, but I'm working on it. But I think the strongest branding and marketing you can do is the impression that you leave with your clients. Right. They would give you referrals if the experience with you was good. If they thought that, for example, you are very personable, that you were on top of the law, you understood their problem, you were able to solve it, you were easy to work with, they would remember you. The next time somebody says, oh, maybe I want to do ABC transaction, they would refer you, oh, I worked with this lawyer, or I worked with this firm. They were very, very good. They were on top of the law. They were very good. They were available. Do you get it? Yeah. So I think that's the strongest marketing you can ever do. But then moving on also, your personal brand ties in to the firm or the company you work with brand. Yeah. If there's anything that you don't want seen or heard about, you don't put it out there. mean, now the internet does not, like we always say, the internet doesn't forget.
Yeah, exactly.
Be conscious of the perception of yourself that you want others to have.
Yeah.
And take deliberate steps to create that perception of yourself out there. If you want to be seen as the it lawyer, put in the work that is required.
Yeah.
Make sure that you appear daily as that lawyer that you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing that can happen is for word to be out there that, oh, this person is a very good lawyer, and then somebody experiences you and your law is like absolutely.
Yeah.
So in as much as you are putting a certain perception of yourself out there, make sure that your law is good. So stay on top of the law, and then make a conscious effort to appear the way that you want to be addressed. And always remember that however you appear or however you project yourself will impact your firm's appearance as well.
Right.
And then sometimes as well, the strong brand that the firm has built also projects onto you.
Right.
So by mere mention of the fact that, I work with A institution or B institution, people begin to see you in a certain light.
Yeah.
And you should not be the one to
taint that image.
To taint that image.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work, but you have to be conscious about it and take the steps that are required to maintain or project that perception.
Very, very, very insightful, Sena. Very insightful. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think it's very loaded. A lot that I believe people will learn from. And so, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
You too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And so, yes, we've come to the end of yet another wonderful, insightful episode of the All the Way Up podcast. Do well to follow us on social media, all our handles. Watch, share the content as well. And we'll catch you later with another episode. Take care.